The DJI Mini SE camera and video features. The DJI Mini SE camera features. Tap the Go Fly button and we'll be brought to this window where we can make our selection in terms of the mode that we want to fly in. At the very top, we'll see that the time shots option is selected, and in the time shots menu we have time shots varying from 2-second intervals all the way up to 60-second intervals. You'll see me scrolling through the options now, and for this demonstration I'm just going to be sticking with the default, which is just 2 seconds. So once that is selected, you can either press the camera button or press the button here on screen. And there you see it, taking pictures at a 2-second interval. And of course you can stop it by pressing that button again. Now once you've made your selection and you've taken your picture, you can go into the gallery of the DJI Fly app, and there you'll find a low resolution preview of the picture you've just taken. After doing this, you want to tap on the download button on the lower right hand side of the screen, and once you've done that, it's going to download the full resolution, that's the high definition version of the picture that you have just taken. So you will no longer be looking at the low resolution preview, but rather the high resolution. And here it is, guys, with all the colors and the sharpness in. This is what the picture looks like, and remember, this drone is able to shoot 12 megapixel pictures, so it's pretty decent for those who are just starting out in the drone mode. Hey guys, let's dive a little deeper in the camera settings. To go to Pro settings, you want to click the auto function, which is at the lower right hand corner, and once we hit that, it will bring us to the Pro settings. Now we're in the Pro settings. I'm just going to hit the section here at the lower right hand side of the screen, and this is where we select our aspect ratio, so we can choose between 16:9 or 4:3. 16:9 would give us this wide screen, while 4:3 will give us a narrower screen. We can also change our white balance from auto to manual by hitting the auto button located at the top. Once we do that, we can manually adjust the amount of artificial light. We can drag the slider left or right to increase or decrease the amount of light that we want in the image. I leave it at auto so it can make the decision for me. Now there are instances where you might need to manually adjust this, but that's for later on in the series. Let's continue. I'm going to hit the lower camera icon to the right side, where we can explore all the 3 elements of the camera. Now based on our screen, the 3 main parts we'll be looking at are ISO, shutter, and our manual meter at the bottom. I'll start first with the manual meter. The manual meter is a measurement of how exposed the image is. It kind of acts as a guide to make sure that we don't overexpose or underexpose our image. This meter is affected when we adjust the ISO or the shutter functions at the top, and you'll notice that it will move from a negative number to a positive number, or from a positive number to a negative number. You generally want to stay within the area of about negative 1.7 to plus 1.7 to get a decent image. Next up, we have the shutter. The shutter controls the amount of light entering the camera. So the shutter speed can be a fast one or it can be a slow one. So in other words, the longer we have the shutter open is the more exposed the image will be, and the shorter we have the shutter open will be the darker the image. A helpful tip is always to keep your ISO as low as possible. The higher you bring your ISO is the more grainier your image will become. Professionals refer to this as visual noise. The shutter speed and ISO work together in giving a balanced reading on our manual meter. Okay drone fans, keep your eyes on the manual meter as I adjust the shutter speed. I'm moving from 100 to a shutter speed that is comfortable for me. And you'll notice that as I'm moving to the right, the image is getting darker. This means that the shutter speed is getting faster. And see guys, the image is getting much darker. Now I'm just going to settle on 1.3 as our manual meter, and the shutter speed will be 1/640, which is very fast. I'm keeping my ISO at 100. You don't want to increase your ISO because again, it just makes the image grainier and not visually pleasing. Now that we're finished with setting the camera, we can go straight into taking our video. Video features. Let us try taking a video now. The DJI Mini SE gives us two options to film in. We have 2.7K or we have 1080p. We can shoot up to 30 frames per second if we are shooting in 2.7K. So our options are 24 FPS, 25 FPS and 30 FPS, and the FPS is just short for frames per second. Now if you're shooting cinematic videos, you want to keep your frame at about 24 frames per second. You select the 1080 pixel option, we see that we have a wider range of frames per second. We can go all the way up to 60 frames per second, and this is if you're trying to achieve slow motion pictures. So when you're finished videoing in post, you can slow it down and it won't be as pixelated as a 2.7K at say 24 or 30 frames per second. I'm just going to hit that video button and we are recording. So right after the recording is finished, I'll show you a finished product of what it looks like. And here it is. So our recording is done and we can see a preview of it by tapping the button located right under the record button, and we can also download the high-res version. And there you see me fiddling with the values. As I move towards the negative side, the image gets darker, and as I move towards the positive side, the image will get brighter. So it's kind of like very similar to our manual meter that we were talking about earlier in the video. So we're just moving it to the side here, and we're in auto mode now as we're flying. So this is for those of us who can't be bothered with changing the settings manually, and I do recommend that as a first-time flyer you get really familiar with your manual settings. It gives you a lot more flexibility, and in terms of your shots it could make them more interesting or more creative. The camera on this drone is very capable, but it takes practice to master. Keep practicing one day and you'll get there, drone fan. If you found this video useful, drop a like and subscribe. This is JAM DUNG Drones, over and out.